Citizen Science seminar. Today is going to be Dr. Oscar Esteban giving the talk. He will be discussing about repeatable research, don't repeat history fishing for dead salmons. And yeah, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction about Oscar, and then I'm going to get the floor for you. So I met Oscar quite a while ago. I think when you came here, 2011, I guess it was, with a project of collaboration when you were doing your PhD in Madrid, in the University of Madrid, and you were working with Mary. Mm-hmm. At that moment, you were doing mainly registration problems, especially for diffusion, if I recall correctly. Then you went to UCLA. Mm-hmm. You spent 1 year over there. You came back. You got your PhD and then fly straight to Stanford, mm-hmm. where you spent 5 years in Stanford doing what is now well-known Oscar for that is for the fMRI prep pipeline, mm-hmm. That's the work part, which is something that is really Oscar has been, since I know him, really concerned about repeatability, doing the things right. Let's do our analysis in a way that can be redone with any problem. And it's what brought you here back. This is your ambition. Well ago.
4 years ago.
4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now here we are. So this is like Oscar traveled from Lausanne back and forth. And now I let you the floor. So you can explain a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Elda. And thank you to the CIBM for inviting me to give this breakfast science. As Elda already introduced, I want to bring up the topic of making our research more repeatable, which is something that has concerned my endeavors since I started my PhD. The QR code you had at the beginning is the same here, in case you couldn't get the slides. They are accessible with this link or the QR code. So I'll start by saying basically the same Elda has told. I'm an Ambizione Fellow here, and my team or my goal is to provide other researchers with more transparent and dependable tools so that the science we all together make is more reliable, right? And today I wanted to bring you a concern that is bugging me a little bit about whether we are getting to a point of realization, like back in 2009 was the Dead Salmons study. And for those who are not aware of this circumstance or this event in neuroimaging history, this is a poster, Craig Bennett. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know why this is not working. Okay, so this is a poster Craig Bennett at Dartmouth presented back in OHBM 2009. They were very concerned about people not addressing the problem of multiple comparisons in their analysis. So to demonstrate how you should address this problem, they basically threw a dead salmon into an fMRI scanner and subjected the salmon to a task paradigm to investigate emotions they were going to run on humans later. And the results were that they found activation in the brain. They then did a little redux of the poster in a made-out journal, the Journal of Serendipitous and Unexpected Results, in which I extracted the last sentence, which I think is really critical, basically calling us our attention to say that it is really terrible that we hit false negatives. But it is not a good solution to inflate the number of false positives in our analysis. So we need to find a way of making our science more reliable. And I have the impression we might be edging to the same situation right now, because other than knowledge about multiple comparisons, there's the rest of the circumstances, and in particular the incentives for researchers have not changed. So as back in 2009, careers are built around headline-grabbing results, right? So it is critical for researchers to come up with really fancy and impressive findings. And I wanted to bring you this paper by a large collaboration across 70 teams in the world. This is published in Nature in 2020. And basically what they did in this study is they shared the same data set over 70 teams, and they asked these 70 teams to test the same 9 hypotheses. And the results were strikingly different. Even though there was some consensus in some activation, in general, the answers to the hypothesis was completely different across all the teams. So they tried to explain this and tried to figure out why this happened. And the main reason they could come up with is that no 2 teams actually used the same pipeline or similar pipeline. They were very, very different. So there is a lot of concern now that at least in fMRI, the way you process the data and the approach you take to analyze the data may lead a different answer. But the problem is, it is not only fMRI. This is another paper I was involved, and in this case, I'm part of the authors. And this is the result of a challenge that took place in ISMR in 2015, in which basically the organizing team distributed a synthetic data set for 96 teams, 96 solutions across 20 teams to reconstruct a tractogram out of this data. And basically, the results again were shockingly worrying in the sense that even though they found a substantial part of the true bundles that were simulated in the dataset, all these tractograms came with an incredible amount of false positive connections. To give you a hint of this, this is a working title we had before submitting this paper. Basically, it was a very grim picture on, in this case, diffusion data. So my question is, are we repeating the story again? And in order not to repeat it, I think we need to care a little bit about reproducibility. So first of all, I think we need to try to define what I mean by reproducibility here. And when I try to speak about reproducibility, I like to bring this a picture from the Turing project. This is an open online resource documentation book from the Turing Institute. And I very, very highly recommend it for you to read if you want to know more about reproducibility. And basically, they explain the different concepts about reproducibility with this 2x2 matrix, in which we start at the top left corner, where we have reproducible research, which means 2 different researchers using the same data and the same analysis can get to the same output picture or result, right? Then if you want to really make it a bit more robust and be confident that what you are seeing is actually an effect that exists, then you might try a different analysis with different conceptions in it. And again, the 2 different, and I'm moving backward, downwards to robust. The 2 researchers use the same data and a different analysis and still get to a similar picture because the question was the same. On the other hand, if you want to start trying, okay, is this something that happens independently of the species, for example? You try with different data, and the 2 researchers try different data sets with very huge differences between them. And then they apply the same analysis and they still get to the same answer. And the holy grail, where really we want to move science toward, is generalizable experiments, where it doesn't matter if you use different data, mice or human. And obviously, if you have mice and human, your analysis is going to be quite different between the mice and the human. But if you're asking in both systems the same question, and both systems have the same phenomena, they should lead you, the 2 analyses should lead you to the same answer, right? So in thinking, how can we improve the situation? I went back to the classical test theory, right? And basically, the classic test theory tells you there are two ways of making your measurements more reliable. One way is that you repeat the measurement over and over again with the hope that random errors are going to cancel out between different realizations. The other way is standardizing and making the experiment variability introduced by the operator and how you run things very, very small. So you do the things all the time the same way. This says nothing about the validity. You can be measuring something that doesn't exist or using the wrong measurement, the wrong instrument to measure something you think you're measuring, but at least you get an answer that is less variable than the noise of natural noise in everything. So applying this to the previous matrix, we can move the reproducible research to more replicable if we standardize. So the analysis is kind of constant, independently of the data you feed it. And then by repetition, we can make sure that the data are roughly the same, so different analyses can answer the same question. And I will dare to, build on top of the classical theory to say that quality control, quality assurance and quality control are kind of in the middle, in the sense that quality assurance helps you with a lot of standardization, and quality control will basically deal with crushing out data that is, not enough quality. They generate data, right? So where do we start? And this is the pipeline we run in our team. However, I bet your pipelines are very similar, maybe changing some of the names, but everything begins with some data collection. Then you run a pre-processing that adapts the data you acquire from the scanner into something you can statistically model. And finally, you play with the data and have fun, right? So the data collection part is easy to standardize. There are the bits standardization. The scanner software is generally very, very standardized, very similar between vendors. That's easy. In the statistical modeling part, you want to keep some analytical flexibility to be able to get creative and come up with new methods to analyze things. So pre-processing lays in between, in the middle, and it offers the opportunity to make our research a lot more reliable. So how did I go about standardizing pre-processing? And the first thing is, why do we need to do pre-processing at all? And basically the reason is we cannot analyze the data as they come from the scanner. There are two main problems. One is the spatio-temporal location. You want to be sure that the analysis is getting the signal at the place and moment the analysis is expecting it. And the other part is signal validity, because the signal is always maybe perturbed by different artifacts and other problems. In the end, and this will ring a bell and connects to the dead salmon, you would really want to minimize false positives in your analysis, but you don't want to increase the chance that you get false negatives. So in terms of spatio-temporal location, you may need to realign things within the run and address head motion and slice timing within individuals, where you need to co-register several runs, or maybe to the anatomy. And finally, across subjects, if you want to run some group level analysis, you will probably need to bring things into a common frame of analysis. So one other example is susceptibility distortion that affects EPI scans that we use to collect diffusion and fMRI data. And basically the problem here, very briefly, is top left, this is the plan of the scanner. It will try to sample on those black spots on the sample that is a brain. But at the moment you put the brain inside the scanner, the object will disrupt the base field. And you can see in the right, top right, how some voxels are, some samples are a bit higher above the nominal B0 field, and some of them in blue are a bit lower. Those will create some displacement. So the scanner in reality will be sampling here and then putting the information here. So there's the grid is not anymore rectangular. And finally, what you get at the end is the left bottom. That's the MRI scan for this in brain, and it is distorted, as you can see. So the second part, in addition to the spatial temporal location, is the validity of the signal, and the tool I've been promoting, fMRI Prep, which Elda mentioned, basically gives you some of these things. But we took a very minimal concept to it, and fMRI Prep will give you a lot of information about the spatial temporal location, and then extra information about nuisance signals that you can apply in your analysis. So how does this relate to reproducibility? Well, the large study that I introduced, where 70 teams tested 9 hypotheses. About 50 teams used fMRI Prep results. So basically the data were not only the same at the beginning, they were also the same after pre-processing, and still, even though those groups had more similar, more convergent results, still there's a lot of variability at the end of the analysis. Then we ran a second study. This is the second bullet point, where in a collaboration across several institutions, we tested 5 pre-processing pipelines, one of them fMRI Prep, and we found a very moderate inter-pipeline agreement, which basically limits our comparison across studies. Beyond that, in fMRI Prep, we keep track of seeds, but do never fix a seed. You should just let it be random and then report what seed you used instead of always using the same seed. And then a second thing we did is introducing noise in several parts of fMRI Prep. And we found that there are humongous variations sometimes depending on the version and the specifics of software. So there are many challenges here. This is a big picture of fMRI Prep. This is a bit unwieldy, but basically it tells you that there's some anatomical processing on the blue side, there's some functional processing, and then there are like satellite tools that help it come with their solution. So in the part of pre-processing of the anatomical, we have the noising, homogeneity correction, brain extraction, surface reconstruction, etc. On the functional side, also typical steps, calculating a reference volume, examining, motion estimation, susceptibilities, as I mentioned before, confound collection, etc. One of the supportive tools, and I wanted to showcase it because I think it's very convenient, is template flow. This basically gives you, puts you 3 key presses away from templates, basically. It uses Python, and it's a way of making sure your pipelines can adapt very quickly. And we have templates for rodents, we have templates for humans, we have templates for monkeys, etc., etc. Then another of one more of these satellite tools is SDC flows, which basically addresses these distortions I mentioned before. And one thing we believe is critical in standardizing processing is generating visualizations that allow you to assess how the processing was done. But in the case of fMRI Prep, we also wanted it to be an educational tool so that it allows you to understand the steps that went through the processing. And in this case, for example, you can see that there's first some part of analysis for the anatomical part, and you can see the brain mass, you can see how brain tissue was extracted, and here you can assess whether it worked well. Here is showing you the registration alignment with normalized space. So one of the flickering images is MNI space, the other image is the individual's image, and you can check whether the 2 of them are very well aligned. Here you see this reconstruction of surfaces, and then you move on to the rest of the data set. In this case, for example, how the homogeneity of the field looks like with the particular sequence that was acquired for this purpose, and then how that transfers onto the particular brain or old run. So this is now fMRI, and you can see the previous field, how it affects the data. And here you can see the result of correcting it. So you can see how after correction, for example, the corpus callosum is very much better aligned with the anatomical contours in red. Then you can check alignment with the anatomy here with another flickering plot, etc., etc. And these are regions where we extract confounds, etc., etc. So over time, fMRI Prep has accrued a immense amount of users. Right now, we are averaging 10,000 runs per week, and of those, about 7,500 are successful, and they get to some result. About the quality of the results, obviously, we don't get access, but at least we know the pipeline is working for many people. And creating this large community has been really fundamental to define the future of the software. On one hand, the support from people and the feedback has allowed us to address a lot of errors and problems that we didn't foresee. There's been a lot of people asking us for new features that in the end resulted really critical for many others. And finally, many people ask questions, basic questions that allowed us to understand better the problems scientists were facing and to help them move forward in their programs. It also engaged a lot of contributors. We have very clear guidelines, etc. And any kind of contribution is really worth it. It really adds to the system. One of the standardizations we've been promoting a lot, and it may seem very trivial, but it is critical, is to provide semantic and very rigorous versioning. So FMRI Prep has a different like Ubuntu and big software that you can see out there for industry. We have a set of numbers telling you how the software works and what may be the changes with respect to previous versions. And here you can see a stream plot of how people keep adopting new versions over time, except for the long-term support, which is the black, the very dark blue at the bottom. Long-term support means that we, at some point, define a set of people who are giving feedback and providing support for that particular version for an extended window of time of over 5 years. We realized that this problem we were solving with FMRI Prep really adapted to any neuroimaging problem, and we started to extract things out of FMRI Prep and create a huge framework called NIPREPs, neuroimaging preprocessing tools, to help you address other problems. The idea is that we want to produce analysis-grade data, and this concept is an analogous to sashimi grade or sushi grade fish. In the same, in the sense that the product is minimally preprocessed, but nonetheless it is safe to digest by the analysis, right? So let's move on to my current work, and this basically deals with the other axis of improving reliability, which is repetition. And here is where we are collecting, or we have already collected this big data set. If you get this link, either clicking there or getting the QR code, you will get to a register report that we have in stage 1 with nature methods, and I will talk about register reports in a second. Basically, we described here in this report, we described the plan for collecting a total of 72 MRI sessions, including both fMRI and resting state fMRI and diffusion MRI, quite multi-shell, quite comprehensive protocol in diffusion, in order for us to understand the variability of these connectivity matrices that we extract from every image. Right, and this is a register report, and I want to highlight this approach as a hack of the publishing system to try to change these incentives I was talking at the beginning. And I'm going to basically use this concept from Professor Chris Chambers about, he's a big proponent of register reports, and basically he argues that results determine our careers. Basically, depending on our results, we might get a better prospect or a worse prospect in our career for the future, right? However, as researchers, we cannot touch the results. It's the sacred part of our work. There's nothing we should do to drive results in one direction or the other. So this creates a very problematic situation for everyone. So register reports is a hack over the traditional pipeline of publication. in order to change this incentive structure, right? So this is basically the timeline of a publication. You first think about it, then you sit down and write how you're going to acquire the data and what kind of data you will need. Then when you are sure about the data, you acquire it. Once you acquire all the data set, you run the analysis, everything comes super positive. So you write it in a report and send it to a journal. The journal sends it to peer review, and after all the reviews are happy, it gets published. But we all know that maybe it gets a little bit more twisty. We probably made some mistakes along the way, and in the end, it hits the first and wrote the paper in a maybe not so careful way. And the first reviewers, they say no. Then you go to a second round of reviewers, the journal says no. And then you get to a third round of reviewers, maybe you get published, right? So why don't we change this? Why don't we move peer review to after the design is done, but before you have already committed the resources, before you have already started and acquired the data, before everything cannot be changed. There's nothing to change, right? So the idea of register reports is that you send your plan to the journal. They send it out for peer review. And once the journal gives you an accepted in principle answer, you achieve the stage 1. At that moment, you can acquire the data, you can run your experiment, and then the journal has committed to publish that. So they cannot tell you, okay, no, the results are really not so shiny, I am not interested in your research. They cannot say that. So at stage 2, there's a second lighter peer review process in which they check that you are actually submitting the results of what you promised, rather than the science of it. And this can bring us to this situation where results do not matter. Or better said, results, whether positive or negative, do not matter, because a negative result is also a result. And you might be thinking, okay, this guy is now trying to escape and say they don't have the results for the Human Connectome Phantom project, and that is true. But stay tuned, because this is the work of Céline Frogon, who is in my team, finishing her PhD, and we already concluded the acquisition, and we will have results very, very soon. So we will start producing these results. I'm going to move to the last part of it, which is QA/QC very, very quickly. This is also work by Céline. And basically, I modified the previous plot with a very simple pipeline, adding on top of it how QA/QC works in reality. And basically, the thing is, after every step, you need to have a quality control assessment in which if you find some images that are not good for your analysis, you need to discard them. And when you discard them, you mail feedback to some previous step to inform, hey, we are looking at these images and they are coming, all of them with this zipper effect in this part of the brain. We need to look at the scanner. There's some loose screw or something that is creating this problem. So it is very important to do both things, basically. Make sure you don't propagate artifacts across studies, and also not to use the wrong data for the analysis. Another way of looking at this is the Swiss cheese security model. This is a concept from digital security systems. And basically the idea is you need to set sufficient layers of, in this case, cheese, to make sure that a data set that should not get to the final analysis doesn't get there. One of the ways of implementing this is creating standard operating procedure documents. And I wanted to bring this topic because for two reasons. First, we give you a template repository to implement this very easily. And the second is we, of course, have one for our, and this is public, this is already available for the Human Connectome Phantom study that I mentioned. And here you can see, well, first, this is an intro, so there should be a picture of the. So you can see all the different details about, or maybe we cannot, and I will have to move, but you can browse this page on your own. So you can see some some details about the experiment, how the different devices are connected. There are pictures showing you how things must be plugged. There are some things that are redacted, and this is there are also passwords and things that are sensitive, so they are not published. All of this is provided by this SOX cookie cutter project that I was mentioning. And finally, I'm going to finish with this. This is another register report by Celine. Here, we were concerned about whether defacing changes the direction of how humans, experts, perceive quality in the image. So basically, we know that now there are big initiatives to share brain data. And because of privacy protection, we need to deface those images, right? And we were concerned that if you share the dataset already defaced, you might be biasing what a rater would say when they are deciding whether to include this dataset or not in their analysis, right? So we asked 4 people who are probably across the people who are watching this session. We asked them to rate 185 images before and after defacing. And basically, their ratings before defacing are shown in the x-axis. So the fact that this cloud is more leaning towards the right means that most of the images had between acceptable and very good quality. And then the y-axis is the difference of defaced of the non-defaced version minus the defaced version. So if the defaced version was given a lot more quality, then you can see how these samples moved to the bottom, and they are represented in purple, right? And then if the defaced version had less quality than the non-defaced, those are going to show here. So there's a good bunch of images that are here in this range across mostly all the different quality ranges. But we saw a tendency of the raters to say that the defaced image had better quality than the non-defaced image, which is one way of showing that any processing you run at the beginning of the pipeline will have some impact at the output, and we need to come up with solutions. In this case, the solution is very easy. With the materials you use to do the assessment, you probably cannot reconstruct the identity of the person. So let's share the quality control artifacts that we use to determine this image goes inside, makes it forward the study or not. Let's share that with the dataset when we are sharing the dataset, right? And we looked at several things. We also had the extra duplicity of images that in reality they rated like 220 something because we wanted also to check intra-rater variability. These results are currently in the inboxes of the co-authors, and they will be submitted for the final publication in a journal very soon. And with that, I will conclude. I hope I have convinced you that the incentive structure has not changed since 2009, when the multiple comparison problem became very patent and notorious. And I think we might be edging into the same situation with the problem of analytical variability, which we need to really address sooner than later. Transparency and reproducibility are, I think, part of the solution. And because of that, I tried to show the efforts in standardization and the great experience of fMRI Prep. I wanted to also promote the bigger idea of NI preps as a generalization of fMRI Prep over other populations and species and modalities. Finally, I briefly introduced, and unfortunately, I couldn't give you the results of our repeatability analysis, But I hope now you're aware that it will be published in some months from now. And finally, I gave you a bit of a hint about quality control and quality assessment and the ideas that we have on that regard. So with that, I thank you for listening, and I'm open to answering questions if time permits.
We still have.
Thank you.